It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. It's your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's a Friday morning and it is so good to have your company. Thanks for joining us, man. Last day of the week and right now time to get into some tech news, and of course our friend Bryan Smith, tech expert, is here to let us know and let us in on the latest, where this past week a UK company called Reaction Engine came to one of the biggest steps in the past 3 decades in the evolution of something called the SABRE, or the Synergetic Air-Breathing Rocket Engine, that promises to change the way that air travel works rather significantly. And this past week they made, as I said, a significant step forward in that. Great to have you back with us, Bryan.
Thanks.
Let's first start talking about what is SABRE.
Sure, that's a great question. It's odd perhaps that we normally talk about vehicles, aircraft, or breaking the boundaries of space, but here today we're talking about a particular component of that in the form of an engine. So SABRE, as you mentioned, is the Synergetic Air-Breathing Rocket Engine. And essentially what this is now a major bridge between jet engines and rocket engines. Principally, if you consider at the moment, if you travel by aircraft, by plane, from destination to destination, you'll travel in the atmosphere. And if you're going through a rocket, you'd be suborbital to orbital.
Yeah.
Engines up until now haven't been able to bridge those two differences, in the sense that different mixtures of fuel, air compression, wind pressure, for example, makes traveling between those two extremes really difficult for consumer travel.
Okay.
SABRE essentially now is the new engine that will form part of ongoing hypersonic plane development, so that being something like the Skylon space plane, or essentially if you can consider a sequel to the kind of idea that was the Concorde a few years ago.
Oh yes, that broke sound barriers.
Yes.
My word. Okay, so that's the kind of future we're looking at right now. So in terms of the past 30 years where they've been developing this, as you told me earlier on, what kind of milestone did they reach this past week that was so significant?
So as you said, this has been 30 years in development now, and as of this week, the designs are now fully approved, and we can expect actual physical testing to go on from this period. What makes this so remarkable are some of the things that this engine can actually achieve. For example, something that's really remarkable is that in atmosphere, this engine would be able to achieve speeds of up to Mach 5, but then in orbit, wait for it, up to Mach 25. So that's essentially super hypersonic travel, where you could hop from city to city in just a number of minutes. What's really exciting is that this engine needs to be able to withstand a number of stress tests and pressures. For example, the wind intake it needs to deal with, it needs to manage air pressure that would be 25 times the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane. And the way it deals with this without sort of damaging any of its internal components or through a really robust cooling mechanism, which means it can cool from about 1,000 degrees Celsius to minus 150 degrees Celsius in about 100th of a second.
What do you even mean? That's just so crazy. Wow. Okay, now that I just pick up my mind off of the floor and insert it back in there. So I feel like, are we gonna have to receive like astronaut training in order to take a flight from here to New York? Because now it can happen in 20 minutes.
Fortunately not. That's the really amazing thing. So if you consider at the moment, you sort of, in the past couple of years, we've been talking a lot about hypersonic travel, bringing back the idea of the Concorde. Even Elon Musk has weighed in on the idea of having city-to-city rocket travel systems. This engine will make a lot of that a possibility and can sort of form the next frontier for air travel in the future. So instead of needing to board a plane and travel for a period of 8 hours, you'll be able to fly on vehicles such as the Skylon space plane with this engine and hop from city to city in record time.
Wow, man, this is really fascinating stuff, and thanks for bringing us the news and the understanding of it all, and it still remains mind-blowing to hear it and try and comprehend it. But hey, how about, listen, would you take, I know it's a bit of a stretch, but I mean, if a plane could travel from, let's say, OR Tambo to JFK in New York in 20 minutes, would you be willing to board that plane? Exciting stuff. Let us know some of the stories that you've also been following in the world of technology, and of course, #Expresso Show.